All yours, Louise.
Thank you so much. And as everybody joins us today, you are very welcome today to Behavioural Science Club. Just when Prakash and I were chatting there, he asked how my week was, and I was saying this has been a great week for behavioural science. One of our members, Kathleen, who often has a question for us, hosted her first talk on the Mensa platform. We had the founder join us a few weeks ago, so that was very exciting for Kathleen, talking about anthropology. She does her talks on Thursday if you're interested in downloading the app. And yesterday we had a weekly habit day hosted by Samuel Salzer and Pete, who have also been guests in Behavioural Science Club. I've put the link in the chat. You can watch it again on YouTube. I signed up for a Rotman talk. Richard Thaler is talking about his new book on Rotman. I'll put the link in there again. And any of our members who are in the academic world, I've been watching The Chair on Netflix, and I'd love to hear from anyone who thinks that it's accurate of today's academic world. Maybe Ambi will chat about that later. But I am very pleased. Today we have the pleasure of talking with Ambi Parameswaran. And Ambi is a brand strategist. He's a brand coach. He's a TED speaker and he's a best-selling author. I can see his book perched behind him on the shelf there. His most recent book, Spring, Bounce Back Stronger from Every Rejection. Life is not so easy as we all think it's going to be when we start out in launching into the world. And Ambi talks very early in the book about how he came to have these thoughts whilst he was being questioned by a young student. So I'm going to hand over to Ambi. I don't know if he wants to particularly elaborate on that story, maybe later, but he also has a presentation for us. So Ambi, we are all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Louise, and thank you for inviting me to this forum. And I can see one or two familiar faces. Hi, Ajay. Nice to see you here.
You see you.
Yeah. So I thought when I was reached out for this thing, and I said, look, maybe I will. I have a talk on my book, Nawab Noodles, which is about the changing consumer behavior and how it's been reflected in Indian advertising. So I have a talk. What I will do is maybe we can stop somewhere around the 30-minute mark and then get into a Q&A, because the talk is a long talk and it's got a lot of ads. Many of them are in Hindi. So I will try and kind of explain the gist of the ad in English so that those of you joining from around the world get to know. It's about India. The book is about how Indian society has changed and how Indian advertising has reflected this change. And those of you in the US would have read books on like Erving Goffman's book on gender advertisements, and several other books have been written. I don't think we have had any such book written in India, which has got me into doing this research. And I published this book in 2016. The book continues to do well, and I keep getting invited for talks, and it gets used in business schools as well as in advertising as a primer to Indian advertising. So let me jump right in and share my screen. I hope my screen is visible. Yeah, okay, good. So it's about branding and brand advertising in a changing socio-cultural landscape, and that's what the book is about. Let me just tell you that we've had multiple books on how Indian society has changed and how movies have reflected this change. I think Rachel Dwyer, who teaches in one of the UK universities, has written several wonderful books, but no one has looked at advertising. and how advertising is reflecting the change in society. That's what I attempted to do with this book. To those of you here, all of you, when I do this talk to students, they ask me, who's Marshall McLuhan? I think this audience knows him probably better than me. And he said, historians and archaeologists will one day discover that the ads of our times are the richest and the most faithful reflection any society ever made about the whole range of activities. While Marshall McLuhan said that, Kurt Vonnegut, with the tongue firmly in his cheek, said that what passes as culture in my head is really a bunch of commercials. But you know, why does it make sense to look at social change through the advertising lens? I think advertising, definitely in India, as you will see, often reflects change. Sometimes it tries to drive change, and sometimes it tries to predict change with varied level of success. So this is how India was in the 60s, right? We had probably one or two, we had a control regime, control and command economy. We had one or two brands of refrigerators, one or two brands of television sets, cooking oil, one airline, and one or two brands of cars. Now this has changed in the 2010s and the 2020s. We have, everyone now probably has a debit card. We have 90% or 80% of the country has mobile phones. 600 million people are on the mobile internet. But we still have our own share of issues, right? 30% of the country lives below the poverty line. School attendance is still worrying, especially during the pandemic period. But my book is not about serious issues. It is a light-hearted look at how society has changed and how advertising has tried to capture this change in society. The book is organized into 4 sections. I'll not go into detail. What I'll do over the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes, will take you through some glimpses of some of the chapters of the book. The fortunate thing when I do a talk like this, I can play the ads. In the book, I've given the reference to the ad and explain the ad. And so let's start with marriage. And pressure cooker is what we use for cooking rice in India. And I say this pressure cooker centric, married life in India was pressure cooker centric. And this was epitomized by this ad, which came out, I thought in the 60s and 70s, actually came out in the early 80s. Let me play the ad. And I'll explain it for those of you who don't understand the language.
आइए जनाब आइए कहिए क्या चाहिए जी वो हाँ एक प्रेशर कुकर चाहिए प्रेशर कुकर क्यों नहीं आप अपनी बीवी से कितना प्यार करते हैं ये तो बताइए क्या मतलब है आपका मतलब है मान लीजिए आप अपनी बीवी को सिर्फ थोड़ा सा चाहते हैं अगर तो भी चलेगा प्रेशर कुकर थोड़ा ज्यादा लगाव है जनाब तो थोड़ा अच्छा प्रेशर कुकर लेके देंगे आप अगर अपनी जान से भी ज्यादा प्यारी है इनकी जान तो फिर ये 100% सुरक्षित प्रेस्टीज लेके देंगे श्रीमान लेकिन प्रेस्टीज ही क्योंकि सिर्फ इसी में है अनोखा बास्केट रिलीज सिस्टम जिससे जरा भी खतरा नहीं रहता ये देखिए ये इस तरह काम करता है अगर कुछ दाने वेट वेंट में फंस जाए तो साधारण प्रेशर कुकर में जरूरत से ज्यादा प्रेशर जमा होने से खतरा पैदा हो सकता है लेकिन नए प्रेस्टीज में सेफ्टी प्लग कैसा भी लगा हो अनोखे बास्केट रिलीज सिस्टम की वजह से आप सुरक्षित रूप से बाहर निकल जाती है जी तो प्रेस्टीज ही दीजिए जो बीवी से सचमुच करते प्यार वो प्रेस्टीज से कैसे करें इनका
Just to tell the story, this guy probably takes a newly minted wife to a shop to buy a cooker, and the shopkeeper asks, "Which pressure cooker do you want?" And he says, he said no. If you love your wife a little bit, you can buy any pressure cooker. If you love your wife a little bit more, you buy a good brand. But if you love your wife as much as you love your life itself, then you'll only buy her a prestige pressure cooker because it is 100% safe, etc. So the line is almost very catchy. It's almost legendary that Jo Biwi se kare pyar, prestige se kaise kare inkar. If someone who loves his wife cannot say no to a prestige pressure cooker. This was married life, pressure cooker, husband taking wife out, to buy her a safe pressure cooker. But if that was one end of the spectrum, the other end was this ad done by BAT or ITC in India, which is made for each other, couple, sitting and reading a joke book, and they also had a contest where they rewarded the made for each other couple, and the couple got an ambassador Morris car as a grand prize. So this was, in fact, this particular print ad ran unchanged almost for 10 years in Indian newspapers and magazines because the damn thing worked so well. They never had to change it. So this is the wedding or the marriage life in India of that period. And then came in about 2010 or so, came an ad which kind of turned this question on its head. Let me play the ad.
चॉइस नहीं है, तुम्हें ये करना ही पड़ेगा.
लेकिन प्रिया इतने कम टाइम में ये सब कैसे होगा?
Sorry guys, you'll have to manage it. Okay, we should start now. Hi, how's it going?
Okay.
कुछ हो तो कॉल करना.
Okay.
Bye. Bye. अच्छा रोहित, मैं घर पहुंच रही हूँ. तुम डिनर में क्या खाओगे? Okay.
टाइम लगेगा. बॉस ने बहुत काम दिया. बाय.
बॉस को बोलो कि वाइफ बुला रही है.
तुम भी बोलो ना बॉस को.
जल्दी आना. वेट करूंगी.
कभी-कभी बस एक स्मार्टफोन लाइफ में थोड़ा मैजिक ला सकता है. तभी तो खास स्मार्टफोन्स के लिए बना है एयरटेल, द स्मार्टफोन नेटवर्क.
Louise, I hope you got the ad. Right, so this is a new marriage, right? I mean, the new married life where the husband could actually be less educated than the wife, and the wife is probably her boss. Not good corporate governance, but yeah. But the interesting thing is this ad got trolled in social media, and the trollers said that, why are you still putting her in a gender-defined role of going home and cooking? But I thought this ad was a well-done ad. I know I may get some shoe beatings on the chat box, but I thought it did well for the brand. I thought it visualized a new role, that the wife is better educated, smarter, etc. And to be fair, the director made sure that she was not struggling with a pressure cooker at home. She was actually using some modern devices and probably having fun cooking. So I would, cut him that slack. And I think it's a good ad. But this is such a tip of the iceberg. And in India, homemaking, cooking, looking after children is still pretty much a woman's domain. And I tell my audiences in India that all this is going to change in the next, 5 years or 10 years. It'll be men who will be doing 50% of the cooking, grocery shopping, picking up kids, dropping kids. So when I do this talk to a young audience, I ask the men, how many of you know how to cook? And I tell those guys who don't put up their hand, saying, look, if you don't know how to cook, you're not going to get married. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe it's a blessing, but you please be ready for a happy life of bachelorhood. This is the marriage scene, the way it is changing in India and how ads are reflecting that change. So let's move to old age. Old age in India, till around 20 years ago, was all about, popping pills, drinking potions, going on pilgrimages. And one ad kind of captured this ethos when it came out in the early 80s, which is an ad for an electrical company, a bulb company.
जब मैं छोटा लड़का था, बड़ी शरारत करता था, मेरी चोरी पकड़ी जाती, जब रोशन होता बाजार, अब मैं बिल्कुल बूढ़ा हूँ, गोली खाकर जीता हूँ, लेकिन आज भी घर के अंदर रोशनी की बाजार.
रोशनी की दुनिया का सरताज बजा
So this is a bulb advertising, a bulb brand, because a lot of these kind of ads came about, taking a potion or taking a pill for old age people. But that has changed in the last 10 years. This ad came out about 10 years ago. This lady is using a sewing machine. Her husband comes and puts a little box in front of her. She opens the box and there is a diamond ring. So she asks him, you're buying me diamond at this age? And in Hindi, it sounds great. But the husband says, the diamond doesn't know your age, so why are you bothered? And this is, interestingly, it was not for a diamond brand or a jewelry brand. This was for a life insurance brand. And the idea was that if you save enough money, in your old age, you can actually start gifting your wife, diamond necklaces. Of course, a little bit of far-fetched, thinking by the copywriter, but I think a lot of such ads have come. And this one is where this man is, come home, he's packing his bag. So she says, wife says, you just came back from a holiday. Why are you packing your bags again? He said, no, I'm going on I have to go to Calcutta. So why are you going to Calcutta? My walking buddy Sharma, his sister's granddaughter is getting married. So she says, your walking buddy Sharma, sister, granddaughter, and you have to go to Calcutta for this? Don't you have anything better to do? And the husband says, no, I don't have anything better to do. So in a sense, a lot of advertising in India is showing old age as something to be enjoyed. The truth is, compared to say 20, 30 years ago, today's, at least upper middle class people who are hitting the age of 60, 65 have saved some money. They bought their own house. So probably they are, I think there's a nice chat discussion going on. Yes, the sewing machine couple were a real couple. Good one there. So in advertising, we are presenting old age in India to be a lot rosier than probably what it is. But it's true that someone who's 60, 65 now probably owns his own house, probably saved a little bit. So he doesn't have to be dependent on his son or daughter to look after him. So that's a dramatic change that has happened. But the old people in India are as worried as they are everywhere in the world because of cost of medical care, etc., is going up in India. So that is old age. So let me now change track and go to young people. In India, we've had multiple brands showing very nice, cute children, right? Whether it is a soft drink ad or a Complan, which is an energy drink, or a cooking oil called Sundrop, and this is the ad which my old agency did. But my favorite ad is this one, which is behind this black box, which all my Indian viewers here can easily guess, and I'm sure all of you know this ad, but let me play the ad.
अरे बबलू, यहाँ क्या कर रहे हो?
सब गुस्सा करते हैं, मैं घर छोड़ के जा रहा हूँ।
अगर घर में तो मम्मी है, गर्मा गर्म जलेबियाँ बनाई है।
जलेबी?
तो क्या तय किया आपने?
जाना तो है, मगर
20-25 साल बाद अनोखी शुद्धता, अनोखा असर।
Louise, did you get the ad? Okay, so when I wrote this book and I gave this talk 4 or 5 years ago, the guy who wrote this ad came and met me, Jagdish Acharya. And he told me some interesting stuff. Like, when they were originally making this ad, the idea was to use a kachori. Kachori is a savory snack. But when shooting the ad, the director said, no, the kid is not going to come home for kachori. The kid will come home only if it's a sweet dish. And so let us change it to jalebi. So made this, it's become jalebi. And of course, it's an old postman who notices the kid and brings the kid home. And apparently, when the ad got released, there was a news item in some Punjabi papers saying children are running away from home because their mothers are not making jalebi. So this news came to the attention of the agency, and the agency decided to go and meet the client, which is a legendary person called Dr. Kurian of Amul. So they said, sir, we've come to realize that, there's some news report that children are running away from home because, moms are not making jalebi. So apparently Dr. Kurian had a great sense of humor. So he said, yeah, that's very good, because let's keep running this ad because, people are noticing the ad, right? So this is in fact one of, I can go on for an hour on this ad, I'll stop. Let me go to the new parenting. If this was parenting then, very nice children, the new parenting is this ad.
मेरे बेटे को जीत की आदत तब लगेगी जब वो मुझे हराएगा, तब नहीं जब मैं उसे जीतने दूंगी। आखिर आदतें ना एक दिन में बनती हैं ना आसानी से, और ये बच्चों को घर बैठे नहीं सिखाया जाता। तो जिस दिन वो मुझे हराएगा, मैं जीत जाऊंगी। सिर्फ एक माँ अच्छी आदतों की अहमियत समझती है, इसलिए मैं उसे रोज बॉर्नवीटा देती हूँ।
So this is the form of aggressive parenting which we see in India today. That this concept of a tiger mom or helicopter parenting, which became very popular in Asia, especially China. It's come to India now in a big way. Children are being put into tuition classes at the age of 5 or 6 or 7, and it's just crazy. But this ad captures that. It's about the mother saying that I will run with him, and I will run with him till he can beat me, and when he beats me, I will win. And that's lovely, voice over here. I mean, her narration of this is very, very well done. But this is the new parenting in India, and the advertising is capturing this ethos, and we're going to see more and more brands reflecting this. Now let's go to Indian men. Now, India has had overdose of macho men, but these macho men are now learning how to moisturize, right? And so we had washing soap, soap called Lifebuoy, which had a health promise. We had cigarette, Charminar, very popular cigarette, and this guy who's modeling for it here is a very big film star, and his son is also a very big film star. And of course, there is a undergarment where the guy is fighting off baddies in his undies. Now that this largely male macho men, but this changed about 10 years ago with the launch of a brand called Fair and Handsome. Fair and Handsome came and said that men should not use women's fairness cream, and we have created a special fairness cream for men. And it's interesting, the metrosexual men arrived. And the term metrosexual was apparently coined by an editor of Vanity Fair, who said that metrosexual man is a man who moisturizes and dash dash dash. I don't know anyone knows what was the second thing which was said. Men who moisturize and dash dash dash. Any guess? Men who moisturize and read a lot of magazines, apparently. Apparently, reading magazines is a very feminine trait, and that's what the editor said. So this has come in a big way. And if you do home visits in India, and if you find, even in a middle class or lower middle class home, five women cosmetic products, chances are you'll find 6 men cosmetic products. You'll find 2 deos, 1 fairness cream, 1 face wash, maybe a hair gel or whatever, right? So it's this entirely advertising created category. It's become very, very big in the last 10 years. So men have turned soft. Why have they turned soft? And I keep asking this question, largely because women have become very aggressive, right? Women have got more educated. Women have got, fighting for their jobs. And this is going to happen more and more. Men today in the age group of whatever, 35 to 45, 50 are all the sandwich generation. Their wives saying, I demand all this, you have to do this for me. Children say, I need to go to the best college, please save the money. And their parents are saying, you need to look after us. So they kind of squeeze from all directions. And that's the problem with the men of India today. Now let's move from men to celebration. So India, we've had all kinds of celebration, but there are only two large national level celebrations. One, of course, is the Festival of Lights. We call it Diwali. And there is another one celebration which happens across the country. And all the Indian viewers can guess, yeah, it's not cricket. Guess again, Nusha. Yes, she got it. Yes, it is marriage. So there have been hundreds of ads made in India using marriage as a theme. So, Rinusha, can you guess which ad I've got hidden under this box?
Is it Tanishq?
No, Tanush. Tanishq is all very serious, but let me play this ad, then you'll start laughing.
सुनिए लड़की के माँ बाप आए हैं
नमस्कार बारात ठीक 8 बजे पहुंच जाए पर हम आपसे एक बात कहना तो भूल ही गए घबराइए नहीं हमें कुछ नहीं चाहिए हम इतना चाहते हैं कि आप बारातियों का स्वागत पान पराग से कीजिए
ओह पान पराग हमें क्या मालूम आप भी पान पराग के शौकीन हैं ये लीजिए पान पराग
पान पराग
पान मसाला पान पराग
So there are hundreds of ads using marriages. In fact, my own agency must have made 20, 30 ads. I found this the most hilarious and most interesting because this actually, two thespians are playing the two roles, the father of the bride and father of the bridegroom, Shami Kapoor and Ashok Kumar. And they've really played it over the top. They've overacted, they over-gesticulated. And the father of the groom says, the groom will arrive with all the party and what you need to welcome them with something special. So father of the bride is a little worried. What is the new demand they're going to make? He says, no, I don't want anything. I want you to welcome them with this pan, this pan parag shit. So, I mean, it's very bad. Pan parag is bad. It's bad for you. But, those days it was allowed to be advertised and it became a big brand. But this narrative is changing in India today. Today we have multiple celebrations and marketers in India figured out that you can use festivals to try and stimulate demand. And I postulate that, probably buying something during a festival takes away the guilt of buying something expensive. So you're buying something on Diwali, you're buying something for Akshaya Tritiya as another festival, which really got created in the last 15 years. It existed in our books, mythology books, but, marketers pulled it out. And today, a Korean car is saying that you should buy a Korean car because it is Akshaya Tritiya. A femme, which is a skin bleach, which bleaches your skin, says, bleach yourself, into fairness because it is Karwa Chauth. Karwa Chauth is a day when the wife doesn't eat anything throughout the day and she has dinner only after seeing the full moon and her husband's face. This, in fact, I didn't know, but this apparently festival became a big thing after a movie called Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. Right. And the interesting thing is, even in the most upper class offices in Delhi, both the husband and the wife fast on that day. And apparently in Delhi, many offices clear out at about 5:30, 6 on that day because the husband, of course, and the wife have to go home because they have to see the moon and have their meal. So pretty weird. This has become, more and more festivals are being unearthed in India to sell various kinds of products to Indians. But in all this melee, some brands actually tick a nice box. Someone mentioned Tanishq, and Tanishq has done some great work about interreligious harmony. So as, a brand called Brook Bond, who's part of Unilever. But I like this one. Let me play this.
डॉक्टर है ना, इमरजेंसी है। डॉक्टर नहीं आ रही, वो भी तैयार करो। आप रुकिए, घबराओ मत। सब खैरियत? डॉक्टर थैंक यू। कल तो शीशा छट के। नहीं माँ जी, ये तो मेरा फर्ज था। मैं चलती हूँ। पुत्र, आज अगर हमारे साथ ही। अरे इसकी क्या जरूरत थी? पहली बार सजाया है, शायद कोई कमी रह गई हो।
नेकी के इस त्योहार को सबके साथ मनाइए। बिग बाजार, मेकिंग इंडिया ब्यूटीफुल।
So we are unearthing more and more festivals. I think we are at the half an hour spot. Louis, should we stop and get into a discussion mode? Or do you want me to continue?
You can continue for another maybe 10 minutes would be great.
Okay.
And then we'll bring in some questions.
Okay, cool. Okay. In India, we've had multiple products being advertised saying you'll get a job if you use my product. Like there was a detergent powder, which had an ad, which, the guy comes home, takes off his shirt and tells his wife, I didn't get the job because my shirt was not clean enough. And this lady, looks up at the sky and, in advertising, we have this device is a voice of God. So voice of God from above says, new wheel detergent powder with this power of lime, which will make your everything clean everything. And she buys wheel, washes the shirt, and her husband goes and gets a job. This is an ad done for Hindustan Unilever. And of course, there's a Pond's talc ad which said that, this lady applies talc and then she goes and gets a job. So, and then of course there's an ad from Fair and Lovely, and there was a chat in the chat box. There was a mention of Fair and Lovely, a very, very successful brand from Hindustan, from Unilever India. And this girl comes home, she's looking sad. So the father and the mother are sitting in the kitchen. Father asks what happened. And she says, I didn't get the job. And the father makes a comment, I wish I had a son. This girl is in tears. She meets her neighborhood, sister. We call her Didi. The neighborhood Didi gives her 2 tubes of, Fair and Lovely. She applies Fair and Lovely. She becomes fair. And then she applies for a job with for an air hostess, and she gets a job. And she takes her father for a cup of tea to a 5-star hotel. And this ad turned the fortunes of the brand Fair and Lovely because it managed to hit the nail of the changing aspirations of Indian girls. This brand was launched in the late 70s. For almost 20 years. Their constant theme was become fair, get married, become fair, get married, become fair, get married. But 15 years ago, they changed tracks and said, become fair to get a job. And that changed the trajectory of the brand. But this ad got trolled very heavily. It was rated as the worst ad of the decade, etc., etc. And Unilever has had to recently change the name of the brand from Fair and Lovely to Glow and Lovely. But the product is exactly the same. I think it's not affected their sales at all. But this change, this whole thing about you use a detergent, get a job, you use a talc, get a job, you use a cream, get a job, use anything, get a job. This changed. And 10 years ago, our agency did this ad, which Indian viewers will recognize within a second.
Sir, report 1.
What's up?
Shut up.
Sir, hotel reservation desk on line 2.
Yes, I would like to book a table for 2.
Sure, sir.
Poolside.
Your name, sir?
Hari Sadhu.
What, sir?
Hari Sadhu.
Sir, may I?
Yes, write down Hari Sadhu. H for Hitler, A for arrogant, R for rascal, I for idiot. That's right. Now write Sadhu. S for
Shameless.
So this is the new ethos, right? The young people today passing out of the top engineering colleges and the top business schools are today walking around with 2 or 3 job applications in their pocket. So this whole quandary about jobs is that in India, on the one hand, low-level jobs, unskilled jobs, there are 1,000 people applying for every job. At the same time, at the top end, today data analytics or digital marketing, etc., there are not enough people. So there is a huge quandary which HR managers are struggling with. Right? Of course, we've had a lot of suiting advertising in India. We have had Nawab Pataudi, who was captain of the Indian cricket team, modeling for Gwalior suitings. We had Vivian Richards modeling for Vimal suitings. We had a complete man campaign of Raymond. And then, of course, there is this film called Maine Pyar Kiya, which had which launched this young chap called Salman Khan. The reason I have this poster here is there someone who can guess this? Why I have it here? Because it's not that Hindi films did not have men wearing jeans, but no Hindi film till Maine Pyar Kiya had the hero wearing jeans right through the film. So in a sense, in the 70s, jeans was a very Western concept, and it was a aspirational thing to buy and wear a pair of jeans. But that changed, and probably the tipping point of this film, which showed this popular hero wearing this blue jeans right through the film. Of course, he does wear a shirt often in the film, and it's not that he's bare-chested right through the film. And of course, we had a lot of sari advertising in India, multiple brands of saris, advertising on TV, print, all that has gone. All that has gone today. If you see someone in a television ad wearing a sari, chances are she is either the grandmother or the maid servant. So somehow Indian marketers and advertisers have typecast someone where a lot of people wear sari in India today. I mean, 80% of women probably wear a sari. But in advertising for multiple products, you don't show women wearing sari, partly because woman wearing a sari communicates less educated, non-working woman, whereas aspirationally every Indian woman wants to be seen as working, as educated, etc. So two women sitting in Bangalore said that, look, we need to bring back the sari. So they said, we'll do 100 sari pack. We've got a lot of saris lying in our cupboards. So every 2 days, we will wear a sari to work. We will take, photograph, we'll post it on Instagram, Pinterest, etc., etc. We'll bring back sari wearing as a work apparel. It didn't work. It failed. But a company sitting in, an entrepreneur sitting in Kolkata discovered that Indian marriages are changing. It's no longer one day, it's become multiple days. And I blame Bollywood for this, especially a director called Karan Johar, who converted a Indian wedding into a 4-day affair, and he made several movies about it. So this company called Manyavar said, we're going to make these very, very colorful, men's ethnic apparel. And they built a big brand called Manyavar. And the person who lost out in this was the brand called Raymond, which makes traditional suits, traditional suiting, and they probably lost 20-30% of the business because of the rise of Manyavar. Right. So, yeah, Kathleen, that's a good question. We'll discuss that. All right. So then comes to biscuits. I think we should stop now. I think I've gone on for enough. Good questions coming up. So we will stop. Shall we stop? Louise?
Yes, that's great, Andy. So we'll stop with your screen sharing and let some of our members come to you with their questions. I hope that you all enjoyed that. And Prakash, during that chat, you came forward with 2 questions, one of which was my number 2. So maybe you'd kick off the questioning, Prakash.
Thank you so much, Louise. For folks who have joined from different corners of the world, thank you so much for joining in. This is a very context-heavy presentation, discussion, story. But then we know out here at the club, we pay a lot of attention to understanding contextual realities of the world. And I thought it was going to be fantastic to have Ambi come over here tell us the entire story of India in like 30 minutes with some beautiful work that some of which has been done by him. So Ambi, thank you so much for coming in. Loved your book this, loved your book this. I still got the thing because I had to use it as a textbook in my college, and I'm proud I still have a good amount of bookmarks on your book out here. One quick question, actually 2, 3, let's see how many we can get in. First question is, why the doctor? People keep on coming down and they keep on asking me, saying, why do you have a doctor? You know, why don't you explain the doctor to me? You have a toothpaste ad, you have a doctor. You have someone selling washing machine and the guy comes and says, I'm washing machine scientist, which is not a real job. There's no one going around saying, I'm a washing machine scientist, except in an ad world, right? So this guy with that white coat is a staple in a lot of ads. What is the story out there, Ambi?
I think it's a good question. You know, I think in India, doctor is seen as an authority figure. Anyone in a white coat is seen as an authority figure. And you know, if you know the Hofstede's you know, cultural context, and you know, we have a huge power distance in India. The power distance is further attenuated by education, by caste, by class. And showing someone in a white coat instantly gives him the power to say whatever he wants to say, right? And it's been built up by movies, right? In movies, you know, there's a person coughing, and then the doctor comes. He's always got this white coat, and he's got his stethoscope, and you know, whatever he pronounces is ultimate thing. So I think we overuse the doctor. We use it in toothpaste advertising. We use it in even shampoo advertising. We use the doctors everywhere. Though there are new guidelines now, which are restricting some of that usage. So maybe we'll see that going away. But otherwise, if a large part of your country is somewhat uneducated, how do you communicate something with authority to them? You do that with someone wearing a white coat.
Yes, I guess washing machine scientist makes sense in this larger context. Sanvi, thank you so much. The second question, which is there is, and it's a little larger question. Advertising functions by making, you know, way into mental availability, so that at the time of making a decision, you can kind of recall the right brand through 10,000 different ways. It finds its place in your space, mind space. And then, you know, hopefully that's the brand you're going to place the order for. I think that is the larger story out here. And then in today's world, as opposed to, you know, just a couple of years ago, there are so many avenues for us marketers and advertisers to reach out to people and talk to them. So this rise of new platform and new media has also given rise to a lot of you know, thought leadership, hacks, gimmicks, ideas, tips, suggestions, whichever way you want to use, whichever word you want to use, saying this is how you can catch attention. And all the stories that you have shared here are almost timeless. That we look at them. The question then becomes: are we now in a age where advertising is best left, storytelling, to content creators as opposed to hardcore advertisers and creative agency folks? This is a little larger question, I know, but we definitely want to touch this. Ambi, your point of view.
Yeah, you know, interesting, right? I mean, I'm no longer in advertising, so I'm holding no flag to say that, you know, I'm here to save the advertising industry. No, the problem is crowdsourcing ideas is very tempting. But except for some brands like Doritos, which are really a fun category where you can do any zany stuff and get away with it. Other than that, in fact, the challenge, you know, yesterday I was talking to marketing head of a large automobile company in India, and he says, look, we are putting out 120 pieces of content every month, and I am really scared that are we controlling it? And you do something stupid, you know, and in the digital world, you know, you do something stupid, it goes viral, right? So who's controlling it? So in fact, if I was a brand, if I'm running a brand, I'd actually be worried, because some kid nowadays, they're working from home, probably sitting in some small town has created something and you approved it and you put it on. Yes, a few days ago, someone started trolling us, I think at food delivery site or something like that, for a religiously insensitive post. And it turned out that that brand did not do it. And they said, look, we didn't do this. Someone had done it. And they said, look, what can we do about this? You can't do anything. You just keep quiet. It'll die. It'll die down. Because you've said this, right? I didn't do this. Someone else did it. And I don't know. I'm not responsible for it. So if I was in marketing, I would say my job, I'm really scared, right? I'll be very scared because some kid sitting somewhere could, post something using my logo and the whole world will start jumping on me with hobnail boots. So at least what I can do is whatever I do, even if it's a simple Instagram post or a tweet, I make sure that there is someone who understands the brand, is looking at it before it is posted, right? Or like in the case of Amul in India, they have such deep trust with their agency that the agency actually creates the stuff and puts it out in media, but the agency understands the brand probably as well as the client.
Thank you so much. I think this particular brand you talked about was Mintra, and someone had put up, made a fake ad of sorts of the Sita, not Sita, Draupadi.
Yeah, exactly. I think, yeah.
And Lord Krishna blessing her with the sari is never-ending sari.
Yes,
so
and it was not
protected.
Exactly, it was not done by Mintra.
It is not by Mintra. Within hours, it trended, and people started trending on boycott Mintra. And the best part is Mintra has it straight up on the Twitter saying, this is not us. We're going to put up a legal case against the guys who did it. But there is another problem with today's world and fast communication. We don't really verify. We are much more prone to outrage before checking at what's really happening. Ambi, I have a lot more questions. I'm very happy you are here. But I also know a lot more people who have a lot more questions out here. So Luis, before I get greedy, please come on in and start moderating the Q&A, please.
Thank you so much, Prakash, and thank you, Ambi. It's been a really interesting presentation. And Renusha has a question that I really enjoyed. I work in market research myself, and we're always talking about the degree to which the parents aren't the actual prime decision makers in the purchase. So Renusha, would you like to put your question to Ambi, please?
Sure. Thank you. So the question was about, do you think advertisements today have started appealing to the decision maker in children than to the consumer? Because I know that as a 90s kid, I was never deciding anything, but I feel children today are more exposed and they are more empowered than me in my childhood. So do you think advertisements have started catering to the decision maker in them?
I don't think children can be decision makers, but I think probably children are influencers, are becoming stronger influencers. We started seeing that in cars when we started working on car brands in 98, 99. Even then we discovered that, cars are bought with the wife and the child coming to check the car. So it started happening, around 99, 2000, that it was no longer, if you just juxtapose this with the pressure cooker ad, and I think it's a classic for that reason. The husband takes the wife along, but the wife doesn't say a single word, right? And when the shopkeeper says, do you love your wife 100, more than your own life? And if you love her so much, you will buy her a pressure cooker. And the wife gives her husband a very loving look, and the guy says, yeah, I'll buy Prestige. Now that has changed. Today, anything which is bought, the wife goes along, and very often the son or the daughter also go along. So they play a role, definitely in automobile, but I don't think they will play a role in detergent or washing machine or refrigerator purchase. I don't think children play a role there. But in other product categories, yeah, they play a role, because for years, if you remember, Colgate always had children in their advertising, right? Partly because, it's difficult to get children to brush their teeth and the mother is worried about their kid. And which is why Colgate has a sweet formula. Therefore, the child actually brushes for longer because they like the taste of Colgate. But except for all that, I don't think several categories children may have grown in importance. But if you bring teenagers, the game is different. The teenagers have started playing a stronger role. In several ads have come where the teenager is telling the father how to use the mobile app of the bank or how to pay the, if you remember, there's an ad where this father is reading the paper and he tells the son, I've told you, go and pay the electricity bill, go and pay the telephone bill, and you're sitting there with your stupid mobile phone. What are you doing? So the son says, done. So what do you mean done? I paid all the bills. So, so they're bringing in the child or the teenager to bring the technology aspect and how it is easy to use. And a lot of brands have done that, so that's an interesting thing which you could say that children are playing a more important role in, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ranusha. And Divya, would you like to come in now to chat with Ambi? You had a question about social purpose.
Yes, thank you, great discussion, Ambi. And I'm just taking off from one of the points you mentioned about the Unilever brand, Fair and Lovely. I'm also a market researcher, I've worked extensively at Fair and Lovely in the past. So the recent past, what they've done is they've decided that they have to appear morally more conscious and change the name of the brand to Glow and Lovely. And as you admitted, it's not very different. There is nothing different to say in the product. So this whole domain of social purpose, every brand worth its name is getting onto this gravy train, right? So what is this all about? And where in the organization's ecosystem or heart, so to speak, is the role and relevance of social purpose? Is that something that they genuinely care about? And if they do care about it, do you think these are the ways to truly communicate social purpose to a very large and highly vulnerable audience, I would think, still in India, who are willing to accept what large brands, large celebrities say about their sense of social purpose or what they do.
Thanks, Divya. Would you like to try to answer that, Ambi? And I suppose there's a
Divya, are you working in India, still in advertising or no?
Divya?
Divya is still in India. She works in India. She works with behavioral science a lot more these days. But in the past, has worked a lot in market research. Ambi.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
The name was very familiar, which is why I was asking. So, Divya, that's a very long question, complex question. I am also conflicted on this. I'm not very sure. Where do you draw the line? Indian consumers want to be fair. So in a sense, what Unilever did was develop a product which made them fair. It works. Fair and Lovely works because it's a niacinamide, I think vitamin B7, applied on your skin, actually makes it a little bit fair. And that's a genuine discovery by the R&D lab of Unilever India. So the damn thing works. It also has sun protection factors, so it works. To stop using it, your skin becomes dark again. Now, Unilever's argument in India is, look, we are making a product which is perfectly safe. It doesn't contain lead. It doesn't contain arsenic. There are other more dangerous products like skin peels, like a bleach, which is dangerous. We are selling a very safe product. So we would like to continue selling it. Now, the problem is, unfortunately, the Unilever globally has taken on a moral high ground on saying our brands will all have a purpose. And they've gone to town with Real Beauty, Dove, and Dirt is Good with Persil and Surf and stuff like that. So they kind of got caught in their own trap. Left to themselves, Hindustan, leave India, would not have done anything. I think they came under pressure from London to do this. If you ask me, it is tokenism, it is purpose washing. It does nothing else. But the Indian consumers are very happy with the product. And let's look at it. It's perfectly safe. It's legal. And if you extend the logic, and I'm saying, I know that I'll get vilified for this. If you extend the logic, every cosmetic is doing the same thing. So will you ban all cosmetics? Why do you want to apply lipstick? Why do you want to apply a rouge? Why do you want to apply a eyeliner? Why do you want to apply a, under eye cream? Why do you want to apply a hair dye? Right? So where do you draw the line? I know I'm going to get killed. I think I'm at the end of our time, so I can run away. I promised I'll be here from 8:30 to 9:30. But if you ask me, Hindustan, Unilever, India were caught in this act and they had to do that change. I don't think it has affected the brand at all. But what they've promised to do is not to talk of fairness in their advertising, but to talk of confidence, which they will do. Hopefully 20 years later, the brand will be seen as a confidence boosting brand, like every cosmetic brand. Like, Charles Repson said, right? In the factory, we make cosmetics. In the shops, we sell hope.
Thank you, Ambi. As you say, that was a very big question, but you managed it very well. There's a super course on this subject, actually, on 42 courses, good advertising, how to build brands that make a difference in the world. So it's an enormous subject, that's for sure. I think we've got time for one more question. Shrutin, you had a very good question. Would you like to join us, please?
Thanks, Louise. Hi, Ambi. My question to you is, growing up in India in the 80s and 90s, we've seen, of course, there were fewer brands, but that stayed on with us because of, the jingle or the slogan or whatever. In recent times, there have been a lot of beautifully created ads, but I think they've been focused more on winning awards. So you remember the ad, with a lot of clarity, you discuss it with people, but then oftentimes, we fail to remember the name of the brand, right? So are there any in recent times that have kind of managed to create an impact with the brand itself in terms of brand recall, rather than, just make a beautiful ad that nobody remembers the brand it's associated with?
I think if you look at it, currently there is a wonderful campaign going on for Tata Tea Premium, where they created tea for specific states. The ads are very good, very, very focused, stuff like that. Same thing with, Brook Bond. Red Label has done some very good advertising. I'm a big fan of Tanishq and Titan. They do absolutely great advertising. Recently, my old agency, I'm no longer there, did some wonderful ad for Horlicks about a girl, changing the tire. She's a punctured tire. And the mother looks at her and says, when did you grow up? And she says, yeah, I've grown up now, right? So wonderfully crafted. So there are still a lot of good ads coming. The problem today is marketers tend to change the ads too often. They're not letting them have a run, like we used to in the past. But today you run it on YouTube and you change it. Why are you changing it? You should not change it. So that's a problem, which is why, I think someone has posted cred. I think cred is just blowing up money, right? That's a kind of, really absurd amount of money which you get from VCs, and you're just blowing it up. I mean, all the best to them. I will not do that kind of advertising, but it may be working for them because they're appealing to a very different target audience, and they're appealing only to get into the top of the funnel. They just want name recall, and they're doing it, right? So, thank you, Shri.
Thanks.
Thanks, Shrutin, and opening up the whole sort of question of long-term and short-term planning there as well, Ambi. So thank you. It's been a real pleasure to both meet you, hear your presentation, and listen to all your comments today, Ambi. I'm going to hand back now to Prakash to wrap up the event and just thank all of the members who joined us again for our Saturday sessions. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Louise. Ambi, in case people have a few questions, can we have another 5-10 minutes post the official end time out here? Is that something you're comfortable with?
Yeah, 5 minutes, no problem.
Thank you so much. So folks who have joined us from different corners of the world, we are wrapping up officially now, but we will stay for 5 minutes more, 5-10 minutes more for a couple of questions more beyond this. Thank you for joining it, but please stay back because we've got some interesting questions in the chat box. Plus, I got 1-2 questions too, and you can have your questions too out here. Ambi, thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing us, your insights about how the country is evolving, how the country is changing, and how studying the way the ads have transitioned can help us understand the anxieties we face as a nation and the ways we are growing up and changing. Thank you so much, Ambi.